Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are here once again for day 3 of the Honda Scouting Grounds 2020. My name is Mark Rafa Alexander Arambide, and joining me on the cast is Sam Smacks Hyde. We are getting ready for the second portion of the round robin, and it's going to be a rematch of Team Infernal and Team Cloud back from day 1. But here, Smacks, Cloud is down 0-3 in series scores, whereas Infernal, they're up 3-0.
The records have shifted quite a lot since these two teams faced last, and not in favor of Cloud at all. They have yet to find a series victory for themselves. Of course, they did find one individual game victory just yesterday against Team Mountain, but it did still go down 2-1, and 2-0 was the scoreline versus Infernal and Ocean. So still looking to find their first victory in the entire series, and this is quite the demon to have to face to try to do that, as Infernal have yet to lose a series, Rafa.
Infernal have just been too good, even in their series earlier this morning. If you guys saw it on twitch.tv/academy. Team Ocean tried to bring in them, and almost did, to Game 3. NXI was trying to put the carry pants down. He was pretty massive on that Graves. However, it was not enough for Team Infernal, as they were able to come back in Game 3 and win pretty convincingly. And just looking at the band so far, it just seems like a all-out Niles band show. Gangplank, Kale, and Renekton taken away. Does this mean that Niles goes back to Ornn, or does he find another carry in his pocket?
Well, Cloud is on red side here today, Rafa, so I would fully expect that Niles has another carry left in him. Of course, he's already played things like the Kled and the Quinn, so we know that he can pull off some crazy champions that not many others can in this tournament, although he's yet to find a win on most other than that Kled that we saw yesterday. So maybe Kled is the answer. Not banned away on the side of Infernal, but as you mentioned, they did ban away 3 of his champions. Meanwhile, for Cloud, they've taken away 2 of the premier marksmen in the game, Samira and Lucian, and also this Lilia is off the table as they have chosen to pick Graves for Rosethorn.
And one of the things that we noticed that in their one Cloud game win against Team Mountain yesterday, or last night, we should say, was that Rosethorn was on the Graves. He's tried a handful of junglers throughout this week. We've seen him on the Rek'Sai, didn't really like that. We saw him on the Trundle, didn't really like that. There's a lot of interesting picks that have been coming out. But so far the Graves seems to be the most consistent, and thankfully it's one of the better ones, if not one of the stronger ones in the meta. Tomio is going to answer with that Kindred, and Copy might go back to a tried and true pick in that Orianna for the mid lane.
And the crazy picks in the jungler, not to mention the Karthus that has been chosen multiple times by Team Cloud, to some success actually yesterday. Captain Trimps did pull off a win on the Karthus just last night, but previous to that, Captain Trimps and Andy Bendy both trying their hands at the champion and did take losses in both. So maybe they've found a breath of fresh air with that champion. Of course, it was off stream, so unless you watched the YouTube VOD, you've not seen it, but trust me when I say that Captain Trimps can still play this Karthus and might be picking it here as the time runs out. It is going to be Ezreal for Andy Bendy paired with the Leona for Auto.
You know, you were mentioning that Karthus, it definitely could have been not only a pick for Captain Trimps, but we saw how Andy Bendy was the one that was able to pull the first win out of it for Team Cloud. So it is a potential flex pick, but we probably won't be seeing it. I don't know if Captain Shrimps will want to be blind picking the Karthus come R4, as more than likely we should be seeing a counter pick save for Niles in that R5 slot. As Orianna now going to be taken off the table, as they still don't suspect that Copy's going to be one piloting the set. We have seen him play it over the Honda Scouting Grounds. It was one game, and I've seen it in solo queue as well. It's pretty nuts. So can't disrespect the possibility that this flex could go either towards the mid lane, bottom, the support role, I should say, or even the top lane for Tony.
Right. Yeah, we saw Set being picked by Rodov just earlier today. So we know that this champion is still capable of being played in that top lane. Of course, did not win that game, but it still did put on quite a show as not exactly what Set wants to do. He wants to stop the show with his ultimate, but, you know, it was still pretty good as we saw that champion picked, and it is going to be on the side of Infernal this time around, as you mentioned. I like it as a response to this Leona if they do send it over to Shady, although I think Shady has looked best this tournament when he is roaming around and helping out Copy and Tomio with the Death
100%
Squad
agree.
and leaving Shoryu sort of to his own devices, which he has been shown to be very good at. We are seeing a 5th ban missed. They might have been thinking about banning that Karthus, but I'm not sure what's going to go down with that as the Syndra gets locked in for Captain Shrimps.
Yeah, not too sure what the actual ban was supposed to be. Maybe they notated it in between chat. But for us, we're just going to assume it as it's a misban. And Syndra's going to be the blind pick champion of choice for Captain Shrimps. Notice that the Ornn was taken off the table. And even though Niles has expressed that he loves playing the champion, he's also died solo to it a few times this week. So taking it off the table and giving him a little bit more options to be able to look for a counter pick, as Camille and Galio are going to be the solo lanes of choice.
Those two are just such a deadly pair with their ultimates here, Rafa. The Hextech Ultimatum into the hero's entrance. Inescapable a lot of the time, unless you do have a stasis in your back pocket, but not a lot of champions can safely be purchasing that unless you have some 650 gold pocket change. But Niles, he's going to take the Akali into this Camille, and as of this moment, he's hovering over that Ignite rather than the Flash Summoner spell here, Mark. So looking to get his hands dirty in this matchup. Of course, he's tried to do that plenty of times across the entire tournament so far, to not very great success when he does go for the under turret plays. But if there is ever a champion that is the most threatening to go for solo dives, I feel like Akali might take the cake.
I won't believe it until we are locked in here, Smacks. But I do have to say, the prospect of a Ignite TP Akali is very, very, very spicy. And when you're down 0-3 in series scores right now, Smacks, I think I'm more than willing to accept kind of any strategy is at this point. You just have to start experimenting. You know, if they had only one series and we're looking to stabilize, sure, you might want to go for safer compositions. But at this point, let's give Niles what he wants, man. And I want to see Rose Thorn start playing more aggressively towards this top side. If we look at that 2v2 individual isolated matchup, Akali versus Camille, Graves versus Kindred. There's a lack of CC coming in from the side of the Akali and the Graves, but there's a lot more potency damage that makes up for that lack of CC.
Yeah, and on the flip side, of course, you see a lot of crowd control coming in from the bottom side for Team Infernal, especially with this Galio and the set that are being locked in. And even the Jhin can come through with his deadly flourish for that. As we see on Team Cloud, they really only have this Leona for them to be pumping out the crowd control and keeping everyone in place. But we'll find out how that all comes into play as we are on to Summoner's Rift here, Mark. Team Cloud try to pick up their first win of the tournament.
And he stuck with it, Smacks. He's got the TP Ignite, baby. Oh my god. And not even fleet of footwork. He's going straight up Conqueror. So this is full out confident, aggressive Niles signature, very on brand for the man in the top lane, as many have called him Captain America, the one future hope for NA in terms of next generation top laner talent, the next Licorice, as people have coined it. As we said before, Team Cloud have not had the most successful week so far, but maybe, just maybe, against Team Infernal, who have been pretty much undefeated in terms of series scores, might be the ones to upset them.
Really looking at Niles again, as we have been for all of his series, as he has been the highlight player so far. As he does have a lot of team experience with the Maryville squad that he's been with for quite some time. Of course, not as much experience as someone like Otto on his team, who has played a couple of LCS games alongside a lot in Academy. So definitely Otto brings a lot of experience to the table for an otherwise rather green team for Cloud. Captain Shrimps and Rose Thorn, the most unproven of the mid-jungle duos by a lot, and maybe that's the reason why they haven't found so much success here, Mark, but I'm really looking at these two guys to bring that up, and the coaching staff for this team too, to try to bring those two players to the best they can possibly be.
And notice how Rose Thorn and Tomio have already started from the bottom side of the map instead of starting towards the top side. So this means that their pathing is going to put them at the level 3 mark by the time they hit the top lane. And so we should expect to see potentially some action. Oh my god! Niles?
That's no flash. He doesn't have it. He gets punished immediately on the second wave. Mark, what is going on with Niles? Tony Top is styling on him again. This is the second time in 3 days.
First it was the Ornn into the Jace. Now it's the Camille into the Akali for the solo kill, and I'm just at a loss for words, Max. You know, we're trying to cut so much flack for Niles and say, you know, and we're trying to convince you guys at home, it's like, guys, Niles is really good, but like these mistakes, they're uncharacteristic. There's been times where Niles has been greedy, as Rosalorn might run into the jungle here. Shady is there with... That's actually the entire bot lane. Shoryu and Shady just being able to catch Shoryu undetected, and Copy flashes over the turret, gets the taunt down, and Tony Top is there with the teleport play. This is how you start things off in the series. Infernal, once again, putting the pain down on a Team Cloud.
The Infernal Death Squad never rests, Rafa. They cannot stop. The 5-man plays begin at 3.5 minutes. We highlighted already that Shady is at his best on this team when he's roaming around with the squad. We didn't even include Tony Top in this equation either. He gets first blood on the solo kill. He teleports mid, picks up another one for himself, and that's not even mentioning that Shady picks one up on the set support too. Infernal just cannot be stopped in this early game.
To call things super early, I know it's only 4 minutes, but my goodness, Max, if you wanted to like demoralize your opponents in the first 4 minutes, this is how you do it. You get a solo kill on the enemy top laner who's running Ignite Teleport instead of Flash. You dive the jungler. You dive past the mid lane through the mid turret. I just don't even know. Now, Shady taking a lot of damage, but he's got the Haymaker and he's got the True Grit to be able to stack up the shield, but a teleport is coming in from Niles. He is level 4, but he's getting locked up, and the crowd control might be a little too much for him to deal with, but Shady has been cut off by the rest of the members of Team Cloud. They might be able to take one down, and they're going to be able to trade the buffs onto Niles. He is sub 100 HP, and Shoryu flashes in for that last shot, but Copy trying to turn things around as Tomio's going to be able to pick one up back on Andy Bendy, and Otto has got nowhere to run. It's a beautiful Scatter the Weak stun. It might be a little too late. Captain Shrimps does pick one up on the backside. Shoryu will be facing his death there, but Tomio still picks up the final killing blow onto the last member.
And Captain Shrimp's the one at the end of the buff roulette, picking that up, as does clean up 1 kill at least for the side of Cloud, as Niles does the same. They do pick up 2, but again, these team plays from Infernal, they just show up with more players than you. It is inevitable every single time. If you see Shady go forward, you have to expect that a teleport is coming to follow. He's not doing that for no reason. The rest of Infernal follow in line. Another set of kills for Tomio, and Copy staying alive on the Scalio. 5 assists. This is one of those champions that we've seen him hone his craft on throughout the entirety of the Scouting Ground summer, Mark. He practiced all these supportive mid laners to help out his teammates Tenacity and Kenvi, and then eventually Fallen Bandit and NXI as the summer went along. Copy is so good at this style, and he's showing us again today.
And like you said before, he did impress us with performances on the Lucian and the Sylas back on game 1 in the same series, but this is where Copy feels the most empowered, where he knows that he has carries all around the map. I mean, he's been playing with Kenvi and Tenacity for a majority of his career during this year, and we're going to have to kind of cut that off as Copy comes again in with the hero's entrance. They're going to be able to secure the dragon away, taking down Otto, but Team Cloud want to find an opportunity to get back into this game, and they will as they pick up 3.
Infernal do have a lot of members on that play again, but it just feels like they stuck around a little longer than they needed to. Tomio going for that early dragon does get punished very nicely by Team Cloud. All 4 members there do fall in line, and they don't deny away that dragon, but picking up that set of kills is going to feel phenomenal for them as they can continue into this jungle, take away this red buff for Rosethorn. He's getting himself back on the map, and he's up a couple of camps while doing it.
I will say that this time around, even though Team Infernal had a massive early start, Team Cloud, they have not been demoralized. They have not let themselves falter in terms of pace. In fact, they have even anteed up the aggression. It's like when you're playing poker and they say, all right, I'm going to raise 500. And everyone might be scared at the table and they might fold, but Team Clouds, they say, no, double down. I'll re-raise. And they bring the aggression towards Team Infernal, and while they're still behind in gold, they are making some decent trades back and forth.
Yeah, and you got to remember, when Infernal go for these big sweeping team plays, they do sacrifice things for it. They do sacrifice a couple of minions across the board, as Andy Bendy up 10 CS on this Ezreal. We see Rosethorn up 2 camps, and Niles is keeping up in CS even though he has been solo killed in the top lane too, which is so crucial for Akali as she barrels her way toward that Hextech Gunblade while it still exists in the game, Mark. So important for Akali to hit that item, and Niles, he's making his way toward it.
Max, I don't want you talking about the new items because as we were playing those games last night, it gave me an eyesore looking at the shop. I just, I want to relive in the past. I want to look at the legacy items and enjoy them while we still can, as the next dragon isn't going to be spawning for a few more minutes. I want to say around the 3-minute mark. It will be Infernal Dragon, so we are going to get a Cloud or a Mountain Soul this game. So unfortunately for Team Infernal, their soul of point to be able to match up with the team spirit will probably be up to par, but Team Cloud might be able to pick one up as actually looking for a potential re-engage. Infernal, we're looking for an invade onto Rosethorn, but the jungler for Team Cloud is able to secure his own blue buff, and the rest of Team Infernal back away as Niles thought he was going to go for a trade, but actually he fires off the perfect execution. If he decides to go for it, he can go for it, but he baits out Tony Top's hook shot, and he uses the ultimate just to escape.
Just a trade of that ultimate for a little bit more health in this lane. Niles knows he's going to recall right now on this wave. We'll see if he actually can afford the entire Gunblade. I feel like it's a bit early for it. Yeah, only getting that Vamp Scepter and another Longsword. Still hasn't picked up the holy grail of Akali first items, as Tony Top remains as the stronger top laner in this early game thus far, Mark. Meanwhile, across the board, seeing some more items be completed. Copy now has his complete boots paired up with the Predator rune that he's taken, and going to use that to get some more pressure. Shady, non-stop roaming. That is his playstyle across this tournament so far. He's already helping out Tomio on this Herald, but Cloud do know about it.
But the question is, Max, can they do anything about it? And at this point, Otto's the only one that's in range, but the smite will come in from Tomio. Should be able to walk out. You got to pick up the Rift Herald, buddy. All right, well, Tomio is able to walk away. I don't know if we can say the same thing about Copy. He does have to burn that flash. Lamb's Spike comes out as well to ensure that he doesn't die to the collateral damage coming out from Rosethorn, but Team Infernal will be able to walk away. They do lose a little bit of tempo, and we'll see how well Team Cloud can respond mid lane.
Group escape may be safer, but it does take up a lot more resources, as just as you mentioned, Mark, Team Cloud are going to retaliate in this mid lane, get that first turret plating there, and maybe get some positioning down for this dragon. It's up in 45 seconds. They can drop some vision, as we can see Otto already placing that one. He's got his upgrade for his support item, so it's already going to have 3 wards by the time he comes back. Shady, not so lucky. He has been roaming. It's 11 minutes in, and he is just a couple of minions away from upgrading that one, but might end up feeling the heat of less vision than your opponent, as this dragon is coming up. Team Infernal really do want to pick that one up, as it would leave them in a stable connection toward that next dragon and picking up the soul point.
Notice that Niles and Tony Top also have their teleports in case they want to join in for the party that will potentially be around the second dragon of the game. Andy Bendy trying to push in this wave as well so that they can get some advantageous positioning around the dragon. Looks like Rosethorn is already here prepped. He's going to look to solo it up. Meanwhile, Tomio says, you know what? We don't need this dragon. We're going to try and see if we can bully Niles a little bit more.
Might end up working, as they have a flank on him. The dragon does fall for Rosethorn, but we'll see if this response play from Tomio actually pays off. Copy's arriving.
Oh, no.
Oh, Niles.
Oh, no. The Goon Squad is here. Niles thought that he was waiting to get a pick onto Tony Top, but he's the one that is getting hoodwinked. And Tony Top picks up his 3rd kill of the game.
The Death Squad again. They keep doing this. They've planned this out so incredibly well, and it's not even like it's a complex play. I'm imagining the Team Infernal coaching staff is just like, all right, guys, whenever you go for a play, just make sure you have 3 or 4 players so we can kill everyone that we see every single time. And they're like, got it. All of Team Infernal's like, okay, we're gonna do it, and they've done it. They've done a phenomenal job. They're 3-0 for a reason, and they're keep control of this early game lead that they've gotten for themselves, even taking that first turret, all plates involved.
And something to be of concern for Team Cloud and any fans watching at home. It's like normally if Niles falls behind on something like an Ornn or a Gangplank, it's like, okay, well, you know, there's still a chance to scale and provide some utility. But when it comes to Akali, you're waiting on that Hextech Gunblade, and the more times you die and the more times you get put further and further behind in terms of levels, and it gets harder for your job to assassinate and pressure the backline in these team fights. And at that point, even though Niles is a strong carry player, it's going to be hard for him to do his job.
Definitely is. I keep talking about this because it's so important. He still doesn't have that Gunblade. And meanwhile, Tony Top, with his 3rd kill in a row, already at the Trinity Force option, and he's going to be making his way toward his magic resistance boots. And his next item, too, is Tomio gets the mark. That's crucial, but there's the stun.
And there is the Lamb's Respite to try and dissuade as much time as they can. Copy is there for the hero's entrance, but Niles has made the teleport play. Looking for the perfect execution. Shutdown comes in for Captain Shrimps. And Niles finds one down on the shore. You doesn't even need the Hextech Gunblade. It's Team Cloud this time with the Death Squad.
They bring everyone with that teleport from Niles. That's going to give him the funds to buy that ever so important item. But as you mentioned, the Hextech ultimatum here from Tony Top just wasn't here, and the perfect execution from Niles was. He lands all of that damage across the entire team alongside Captain Shrimps, who he's not even at his first item either, but he's just landing all of these spells on both of the magic damage carries for Team Cloud, clutching it out when they need it most. Now, they've got a 1k gold lead for themselves. They are trucking toward getting that first win.
And you said it, Smacks. He got the funds necessary, and boom, bada bing. Hextech Gunblade completed for Mr. Niles up in the top lane. We might see how well he can start handling himself in the 1v1 lane against Tony Top now, but more notably, Rosethorn and Captain Shrimps have massively stepped up their game. And you're looking at not only gold leads, but look at the farm advantage in Rosethorn. Almost 40, 30 CS. That's an equivalent of about 7-8 camps in advantage for this jungler. And with already the Yuma's Ghostblade completed, anytime that he gets in the face of any of these squishies, they are dying. They are pretty dead.
Yeah, Mark, one thing you got to remember with that last play, even though Cloud got a 4-for-0 fight, that is huge. Once Tomio gets his next mark, which is the reason that he went for that play, he needed to get that 3rd mark. Once he gets the 4th one, then he becomes even more powerful. He just elevates the strength of this champion tremendously. You get the extra 75 range. You get the extra on-hit damage. It's huge for Kindred getting that 4th mark. It's very similar to when Kayn gets his form, almost. But Kindred can go even further than that, of course. But that 4th mark is what we're looking at for Tomio to potentially get as we get a Hex Flash. Shady not going to commit to that play. Very unsafe to do so against an Ezreal. He can just Arcane Shift on out.
I'm curious to see what are the next courses of action for Team Cloud here. When we didn't get a chance to talk about how the scaling factor is and how comfortable do both teams feel about going to late game. You know, when we look at any team that has something along the likes of the Galio, then yeah, you can continue stacking more, and magic resisting might be more difficult to kill, but he's not a traditional tank by any means. It's not an Ornn, it's not a Shen or a Sion. He's kind of there for one reason only. He wants to start off fights, or he wants to follow up and make fights more secure through that hero's entrance. But whereas when we look at Team Cloud, there's not necessarily huge scaling menaces either, unless you want to talk about Rosethorn. But with him already investing into that lethality build, like unless he goes for a full crit and pulls an NXI, then I really think that there's no real advantage. There's no team that favors from a longer game, so it really will just come down to certain macro plays and objective trades.
speaking of objective trays, we're getting an entire map split mirrored across the board as Rosethorn and Captain Shrimps take the Rift Herald and the top turret. Meanwhile, Tomio and Tony top take the bot turret and the dragon. It's going to put Team Infernal up to 2 dragons, but we'll see what Rosethorn can do with this Rift Herald. Of course, it is later into the game. You cannot get any turret platings with it. But they do get that first turret already on board as... Actually, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. The first turret was in the top lane for Team Infernal. My mistake. But nonetheless, we do see Cloud return the favor with the top turret of their own.
Team Cloud are currently poised around this mid turret, trying to see if they can knock it down, as once it opens up the map, will give Rosethorn even more agency to start taking and robbing Tomio's camps, putting him even further behind, as Tomio has been managing to pick up some side lane farm and decrease that camp lead from about 7 camp lead to about a 4 camp lead, so it's not as huge anymore, but still, the pace that has been set by Rosethorn has been obviously quite dynamic and contrasting in terms of his first day's performances against Team Infernal.
This is a big step up from him, especially when you look at the first game that Team Cloud played against Infernal. By this point, Rosethorn had already died 6 or 7 times. So just in that stat alone, Rafa, he has upped his play tremendously. I'm really happy to see that from him, as he is one of those ones in the set of 20 players that is rather unproven when it comes to most of the others who have academy experience, who have a lot of team experience, and even Andy Bendy, who has been playing a bit in the ERLs from time to time. Way to go. So glad to see Rosethorn elevating his play across this week. Speaking of, he's in this mid lane, this river right now, trying to get some control over this Baron that's going to be spawning in about a minute. That's going to be the next neutral objective that spawns, but we never know when the teams want to take it. I wouldn't say that either of these two are exceptional at knocking that objective down, but Infernal have some maneuvers that they can look to use around us. Tony Top is so strong in this side lane. There's really no one champion that can match him, and even if you send multiple, the ultimates are still there for copy, for Shoryu, to access a fight across the map so freely.
The hero's entrance does give him that global access. However, he is more so on the top side of the map, but he always does have that teleport, since no plays have really called for it anytime soon. I want to look back at this dragon counter, as the next one will be spawning in the next 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Actually, we have a fight breaking out on Andy Benny, but he's got the arcane shift, and wow, well, that was pretty underwhelming. Thought that an engage from Shady usually nets a kill throughout the week, but one of the few times where nothing really happened.
Ezreal's just so safe in that mid lane. Andy Bendy using that mobility from the Arcane Shift beautifully, and he's continuing to stack up his Manamune too. He's on his way to fully completing that item. In fact, on this next proc, he has it. There's the Merman at 20 minutes in, and Captain Shrimps is going to be there pretty soon at about 200 stacks for himself. So yeah, Ezreal's online, Mark. He's getting there, and he's got the armor item too, so it's going to be even more difficult for champions like Camille, like Kindred, like Jhin to knock him down, especially considering how much mobility he has to get out of the lockdown that Shady attempted onto him. So it's Rosethorn using the Rift Herald. Maybe it was just running out. I don't wanna say anything too crazy. I guess that buff was just running out, but Team Cloud do have that now in their bot lane, trying to take that turret.
Surprise. I mean, that's definitely a Rafa Rift Herald angle where you're just quietly farming like, oh yeah, I do have this thing. Actually, we have a solar flare coming out on the backside by Tony Top, coming in with the flank, and there it is, smacks. Hex Tech Ultimatum into Hero's Entrance, lands a knock up on the 2. The fight is still scattering like the winds, and Andy Benny is able to manage to get himself out of there. Can't say the same about Captain Strips and Rosethorn. They've already fallen by the wayside, but Niles trying to pick up the pieces. He's got the Hex Tech Gunblade, he's got a Haunting Guise. He's going to be able to stack up that damage amplifier, but can it be enough? Even with Auto providing the CC, Lamb's Respite will come down, provide a second win for both of these teams, but Tomio and Tony Top are the ones that come out in victory and pick up the ace.
It starts with Tony and it ends with Tony there, Mark, cleaning up the entire competition with the blades on the legs. cleaning up everyone. That's a full ace for Team Infernal. That's going to give them the control to take this mid turret, to take this dragon, and to take the gold lead back. It's not a very big one because this game has been a nail biter, but gotten control back just like they have been able to do across all of their series so far. Getting that control right back.
It's the third dragon going over to the wayside of Team Infernal. One dragon away from Soul Point. With that Soul Point secured, it would get a little bit more extra movement speed in their pocket. And with a team like this, built on picks, built on forcing fights, built on global power, adding extra movement speed just means that their ability to catch people out in rotation gives them an extra level of deadliness. As, you know, we've come to expect that this deadly squad can be dutifully named, but Team Cloud are trying to pull and roll the dice here. 5,000 on the Baron. They've already started up, but Team Infernal are starting to pour in, and Baron is still only 3K, and Tony Top, along with Shady, once again start off the party, but Niles is putting out damage. It's a double for Tony Top, but can he be the one to pick up the pieces against Andy Bendy? Niles was actually the one to fall against Shoryu, but Andy Bendy comes out alive. And just like that, Smacks, it's a 4 for 3 in favor of Infernal, but neither team can start up the Baron.
Another favorable play for Team Infernal. They deny the Baron away from Cloud, which was honestly a very bold call to go for when Infernal just has so much in the way of engage potential. They show it again. They flex those muscles. Yeah, Copy didn't have his ultimate because that play was started so quickly, but Tony still did. Tony can still get into that backline alongside Shady, just locking down all of the members with the Facebreaker, with the Showstopper, doing it in style, and it keeps on happening to Cloud. They keep going for these plays in the late game, and it's just too risky to go for these. They have to find some way to stop the bleeding when they go for everything like this and find these picks in this stage of the game before they dip their toes into the neutral objective game.
Andy Bendy already burning the Arcane Shift, but Otto doesn't have Flash. Hero's Entrance comes in after a beautiful setup by Shady. Just like that, support for Team Cloud being taken off the map. Baron is still up on the table. It's a 5-on-4, an advantage for Team Infernal. Could always look to start it, but instead they have a bigger prize set in mind. Captain Shrimps, he's definitely a shrimp all right, in a sea of many, many scary Team Infernal members just gonna run him down like the dog he is, and unfortunately for him, he's not gonna have anywhere to go. And now with 2 members off the field, Team Infernal should be poised and ready to go for this Baron Smacks, but I just don't think that they're interested. They just want to continue baiting Cloud in for picks.
Andy Bendy does have a lot of poke potential on this objective, but that hasn't stopped Infernal before. It's not stopping them right now. They've got all these members around, and there's that technical ultimatum.
Rose Thorn is going to get locked out. Niles is the only one that has to deal with 3 members, and he's going to be easy shrimp to fry. Will go down for his efforts, but it does delay the Baron a little bit for Team Cloud, as both Otto and Shrimps will be able to be back up in time. Shrimps also has access to teleport, but it looks like Team Infernal are going to call it off for now.
And Otto actually using his stone plate on nothing right there at the end. That's a pretty big cooldown to not have access to in the next fight. Maybe that means the Cloud are going to want to stall this out a bit, but I just don't know how much time they have here, Mark. Infernal, they're being so proactive with everything that they do at this stage of the game. They know that they have this advantage, and Infernal just one of those teams. If they know that they're stronger, they will not shy away from going for anything proactive on the map. They will take the fight to you. You will have to run. Without that stone plate, it might be harder for Otto to manage. He already has been picked off once. Sleona is not as difficult to kill as most at this stage of the game because he's just been put so far behind.
Yeah, Team Infernal has definitely been the team to watch at Scouting Ground so far. Even when Team Cloud have been trading back and forth with them in the early game and keeping up in gold, keeping up in our item power spikes. It just always seems to somehow work in the favor of Team Infernal. And one of the things that just surprises me so much is how much they are willing to group around each other instead of extending the split push advantage that they have As once again, we're going to see the same old story, same old song and dance. Shady coming in with the showstopper, but he's actually going to go down before the rest of the team can fall in. Hero's Entrance is going to be able to supply Tony Top the assist he needs with that Hextech Ultimatum, but Niall's taking a lot of damage onto the backside, but Trapped in Shrimps might be able to put them back in the dirt, but it's a beautiful Lamb's Respite in response. It's going to provide them saving grace. Niall's will pop a stopwatch just in the nick of time, but it's not enough as Copy comes in with the Winds of War. Sure, you flashing over the wall, looking for more damage on the Captain Shrimps, looks for the Deadly Flourish. It's not going to be enough, as he will be able to walk away in a little bit of a treaty between him and Team Cloud.
Sure, you're trying to pick up the scraps of Team Cloud in the end. He saw blood in the water, but can't land the killing blow. Meanwhile, the rest of Team Infernal pick up the Cloud Soul already. Haven't been talking about it too much because these fights have just been so entertaining, but the neutral objective game continues to be in the control of Team Infernal. Locking that one down again. Let's do a quick mark check for Tomio. He's got 7. He's at 7 kindred marks.
Oh man, he's more than a champion, Smacks. He's a very good champion at this point. And I know we joke around about after the first 10 minutes of the game, if you don't have your first 4 marks, you're not a real champion anymore. But 7, that means he's got 600 range. He's got the same range as Ash.
That's a lot. That's on all of his spells too. Every single one of Kindred's spells gets increased in range, except for that ultimate, once you get some more marks under your belt. So this is just a very strong Kindred, already at 3 items, making his way towards the Death Dance. At least I think it's going to be a Death Dance. I don't know. I haven't seen Locket Kindred before, but Tomio has surprised me before. Maybe this time he's doing it again.
Hey, you've never seen the power of Zeke's Harbinger Kindred until today, Smack. I'm going to tell you right now. Pop the Lamb's Recite, and then boom! All of your added attacks are going to start burning up. But in all seriousness, that's probably not going to be the case here. Team Cloud looking to start up the Baron. Team Infernal do have eyes on it, but Tony Top is casually just making his way, already taking down the second tier turret before making the teleport. Shoryu opening up with the curtain call. And now Shady is looking for an angle. Captain Shrimp's beautiful scatter of the weak stun, but it might just delay the inevitable, and Copy comes in with a taunt, flash into taunt, and here comes the party. Here comes the Death Squad. Hero's Entrance following up on the Hextech Ultimatum once again. Double kill comes in for Shoryu. Niles left all alone. He's going to pop right back into the Lamb's Respite, but it's not a saving grace. It's his last death wish.
It's just too clean from Team Infernal. And again, Team Cloud, you can see the desperation in every single play they go for like this. They go for the Baron again. They know that Tony Top has teleport. They know about the engage potential of Copy, of Tony Top. They can get in from anywhere, and Shady follows up with his crowd control. Shoryu follows up with the curtain call. There's just no way that Team Cloud can continue going for plays like this. It's just not going to work. It's not feasible. You give over the Baron to your opponents again, and it's just looking like a repeat of the previous series, Mark. I'm really disappointed that Cloud keeps having to be taught this lesson. I want to see some better stuff.
If there's anything that we have to look at in Smacks, it's the champions that they're locked in. Obviously, the execution can also be cleaned up in the map play as well, but when you look at this stage of the game and you look at the champions that they've assembled themselves, I mean, who is supposed to start fights? Who's supposed to control fights? All that is really on the backs of Otto and this Leona, trying to find a Solar Flare that's optimal, or Captain Shrimp with the Scatter of the Weak Stun. But it's just not enough. The amount of engaged power that Team Infernal have between Hextech Ultimatum, between Hookshot, between Copy on the Galio alone, and Curtain Call being able to follow up. I mean, everyone is able to start the fights, let alone Tomio. Teleport has already come in from Niles. Shady is going to be able to answer back with the Showstopper. Hero's Entrance will be able to follow up, and Niles has got nowhere to run. Curtain Call will be able to pick up that one. Looking for the last bullet, and god damn! 846 on that last crit. Another double kill for Shoryu. It just seems like the same old song, the same old dance from Team Infernal, as we already saw from the day one in their first series against each other. Captain Shrimps will be the fourth to fall. It's just Rosethorn running for the hills, but he's not going to be able to get back in time, and Team Infernal will look to walk it down and take game 1 away from Team Cloud.
Yeah, it's feeling like Team Infernal going to match point again. They've seen this before. We've seen this before. Infernal just showing up every single time in every single series. The game 1 special with the Death Squad, Infernal, they take it to them again and try to continue that win streak.
I mean, there's a lot of things that we can say about that series, Smacks. There's a lot of criticism that we can and throw the way against Team Cloud, but in some ways, it does seem like just a repeat of game or day 1 back in earlier in this week in scouting grounds. But there was some changes of pace. Rose Thorn didn't hit the 0 and 10 power spike this time around. He looked a lot stronger. He looked a lot more comfortable, as well as Captain Shrimps. Niles, however, solo killed. Getting dove, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was a moment in the mid game where he made proactive teleports and he got himself back into the game, but he never was in a dominant lead against Tony Top. Tony Top was just always pushing tempo, always being able to force the opponent's hand. And there was a point in the game where Tony Top could just look to outsplit push Akali in the side lanes, and he didn't need to because he knew that
Yeah.
they were just much better off forcing fights with the hook shot into the Hextech ultimatum.
These games, the early games are nice for Team Cloud. They are finding some favorable plays for them just in the early game, and sometimes even in the mid game too, but it just doesn't feel like their late game shot calling is all there. And it might just be because of the lack of veteran shot calling on their side, especially when you look at who the most veteran players are. And one of them is Niles. Solo killed again. This is 3 times in 3 days that he's been solo killed in that top lane. It just needs to stop. We need to see him calm it down, rein it in, get out of lane first, and then you can strut your stuff. Then you can be that carry for your team. But I'm just a little worried at this trajectory so far for Niles. I want to see him do exactly what I just said, and maybe then he can be the Captain America that will save NA.
Thankfully, this is a best of 3, so they've got at least one more game to adapt and bring it to potential game 3. But as we're getting ready for game 2, we're going to take a quick technical break. We'll be right back.